So I think I've managed to cull about half of my tops. This little pile in the middle is going to Ireland. Yeah, when I bring those to Ireland, I will be weeding out some of the stuff over there that I don't wear anymore. So it's really just these kind of 4 piles over here. I split them into loungewear on the left, summer in the middle, and regular on the right, and then the separate piles are just dirty and clean. Although I don't know how clean you could... I mean, I hoovered the floor before I did this, so I'm going to call them still clean. Hi everyone! So today I want to make a video about something that is not always considered to be specifically related to spirituality or religion, and that is minimalism. I don't think I've actually made a video about minimalism ever, certainly not an entire video, which is kind of strange to me because it has actually been a movement that has been very much on my radar and very influential to me for quite a long time, for I would say at least 5 years. And I think I maybe underestimate sometimes just how much that movement has actually shaped me and has shaped the way that I approach material items, especially the way that I think about clothing, and just in general was maybe easy for me to adopt in a way because I am a saver rather than a spender. I've never been a big spender, I've never been a big shopper, I've never been big on accumulating lots of stuff. But I think discovering minimalism and discovering some of the techniques and some of the ways that people think about things and how they shop and how they get rid of their stuff and how they make sure that they're living a kind of minimalistic, sustainable life has definitely had a big impact on me. So first of all, I kind of want to talk about the kind of ethical side of it and why it's important to me ethically. I have talked a little bit in the past kind of year or two a bit more about environmentalism and ethics and how I am increasingly seeing that as being caught up with my spirituality. I originally, when I started back on a spiritual path with a spiritual practice, I was very reluctant to consider ethical issues and to think of them as being something that were religious or spiritual. I very definitely had strong values and certain ideals, but in my head I kind of told myself that's very social, those are very social issues, and then your spiritual stuff, that's really about much bigger picture, kind of cosmic wide kind of questions that really aren't connected with the kind of planet level, society level stuff that I'm, would be thinking about with ethics. But over time I've definitely broken down that wall between the two. It's definitely become, I've definitely felt that my environmentalism, that my belief in the environmental movement and in the need for change in that area has definitely been inspired by my pantheism and by just the reverence that I feel for the natural world. I think I've over time kind of maybe lost a little bit of the naivety of feeling like there was some great heyday of human existence when we were perfectly attuned with the earth and perfectly attuned with natural cycles, and that we should be returning to that. That never fully sat with me anyway, and I would say that to my mind actually some of the scientific developments that we're making and the ways in which we're changing as a species are actually very exciting, and they move us towards greater understanding of the universe that we're living in, which is very exciting to me and really quite sacred to me. But at the same time, I made a whole video about this, I will endeavour to link it somewhere. I made a whole video about how for me it's more sacred to be living in alignment with natural cycles that humans aren't kind of actively trying to change, or that they actively haven't kind of enforced their will over, because to me what is most sacred in this kind of divine cosmos is the fact of kind of creativity that can happen outside of human. Now creativity within human kind of means as well, but I think to my mind it is just very important that we allow the cosmic kind of creativity to happen on Earth as well. I mean, really just at the end of the day, because we're just destroying the planet as we know it, we're destroying our own habitat and the habitat of animals around us. So from an ethical standpoint, we're basically turning the world into a place that's going to be much more difficult and unpleasant to live in for future generations, and we're wreaking havoc on all sorts and driving into extinction all sorts of other species. So even just from that ethical perspective of causing pain to others, There's a whole lot of really complex stuff in there. But I think over time, and the more I thought about these issues, the more I realised that actually, of course, the two things are intertwined for me. My beliefs when it comes to divinity, when it comes to spirituality, are absolutely intertwined with my political stances, with my views on ethics and how we should be behaving as human beings on this planet. So minimalism. Minimalism to me works because it does counter our kind of neoliberal consumerist mindset. It counters the capitalistic drive to consume, and this idea that consumption is good because it drives the economy, because it creates more jobs, etc., etc. And this kind of crazy notion that capitalism has, where we can kind of just infinitely keep just buying more stuff and just creating more stuff and just driving the economy into this sort of realm of like infinite growth, which, you know, it is completely nonsensical, because the earth does not have does not have infinite resources. That is just not how nature works. Entropy is a thing, and we cannot attempt to continually grow or continually extract from something without kind of seeing huge consequences. So minimalism absolutely kind of counters that. It is the opposite to that kind of consumeristic capitalist mindset that consumption is good, that buying lots of new stuff and chucking out the old stuff all the time is good. It just is the complete opposite to that. And for me, it is I kind of definitely see a dual benefit to it. It's beneficial to the human being because actually it is quite stressful to us to be constantly bombarded by the need for more stuff. It's really playing into this kind of malcontent that humans have, this sense that we always are striving after more, that we want more, that we're not happy with what we have. It's really kind of feeding off that and feeding into that, and I think that the less stuff we have, like generally in my experience when I am living a simpler life, the less clutter I have around me, the less stuff I have around me, and the less that I am kind of really buying into any kind of consumer stream. Like if I kind of make a conscious decision to purchase less clothing, to purchase less whatever it is, and to have a simpler routine in whatever it is that will stop me from buying extraneous goods, I always do feel better. I think it is easier for us to feel content and to feel calm in a simpler kind of lifestyle, where we're not focused on like getting the next thing and just always looking. It really forces you into a kind of perspective where you're always looking forward, you're always kind of future hopping, you're always thinking ahead, and you're not in the moment. Whereas if you get used to being happy with what you have and just being in that kind of default state of whatever I have right now will do and it will be fine, and unless something breaks that I absolutely need to replace in order to live and have the lifestyle that I want, then we're fine. It gives you a lot more chance to really kind of be in the moment and not be slipping into that mindset that is so easy for us to slip into, where we're just kind of projecting into the future all the time. And then of course it's beneficial from an environmental perspective, as I've already kind of explained, where minimalism just basically encourages us to throw less stuff into a landfill. It's kind of as simple as that. It encourages us not to buy into the extremely detrimental fast fashion industry, which is actually the number 2 industry is most damaging on the planet after oil. Just think about that. Like fashion, just fashion, just clothing. It is wreaking just such havoc on the world. And a minimalistic mindset, whether it's a capsule wardrobe, whether it's just really paring back your clothing to the bare minimum, or even if it's just having that mindset of doing more with what you have, of purchasing mindfully, of not buying something that you're going to wear once and then just chuck away, that really is kind of counteracting the damage that this consumerist mindset is wreaking on the planet. So yeah, there are a lot of reasons for me to want to move more and more towards this model and to continue to kind of look at my purchasing habits and the way that I live and just think about how I can bring this kind of mentality more and more into my life. I definitely want to move more towards a state of mind where I can be kind of in the present, mindful, at one with just existence, and in a more kind of meditative state more of the time, I suppose, in that kind of sense, state of flow. And I don't know, like mindfulness and meditation and that kind of Buddhist inspired kind of branch of contemporary alternative spirituality, I think very much connects to the minimalist movement, and you definitely see a lot of minimalists on YouTube and just blogging and so on who are Buddhists or like Western Buddhists. I haven't come across any who are actually Eastern Buddhists so far, but yeah, it definitely seems to be a mentality that just kind of goes hand in hand, this kind of seeking simplicity and mindfulness and being in the moment. And yeah, there's definitely some bad habits in my life that I am hoping to address, and that are going to do basically both of those things. It's going to help me be more in the moment, be more in that state of kind of calm and contentedness and connection. It's just going to help me have a lifestyle that just brings that into play more, and then also is going to help me, ethically speaking, feel like I am contributing just positively to the world, and that I'm not contributing to the negatives, to the really destructive industries, and that I'm kind of just minimizing my carbon footprint, basically. So it's up to this point, I haven't been doing anything too extravagant. Originally, it was what I started doing was getting rid of a lot of clothing. That was many years ago. I had an insane amount of clothes. I didn't even realize I had that many clothes because I really wasn't wearing any of them. And I definitely was in a habit of kind of purchasing kind of mindlessly, going shopping. Was never a big habit of mine. I was never a big spender, but it was definitely something that I did much more than now. And for a while, I think maybe back before I moved to Edinburgh, I was definitely in a phase I was quite happy with in terms of my purchasing of clothes, and that I was doing it more mindfully, that I was spending less money, that I was not kind of just hoarding bunches of clothes that I wasn't using. I donated a huge amount of clothing to charity. Now, I'm not naive. I know a lot of that, unfortunately, will have ended up in a landfill somewhere in the world. But at least I felt like I was on the right path and moving towards a more kind of sustainable way of living with clothing. I think, unfortunately, after moving here, I slipped up a bit and became less aware of what I wear and my own personal style, and I started reaching for just a lot of kind of basics and cheap items of clothing that just seemed easy to wear, and I just slipped. And I definitely ended up with a lot more kind of those kind of cheap items of clothing that I didn't even really enjoy wearing that much, basically, that were comfortable and just convenient. And I've definitely so I spent quite a lot of time, actually several days, a couple of weeks back, going through every single item of clothing that I owned and getting rid of probably half of the clothing that I have here in Edinburgh. So this is the very beginning of not really my very first capsule wardrobe project, kind of my second, but it's the first time in a long time that I have gotten really serious about getting rid of a lot of clothes. The last time I created a capsule wardrobe, I got rid of a lot of clothes, but to be honest, I stored away a lot, just in case I wanted to come back to them later. It was more an operation in picking out certain outfits that I wanted to wear, and kind of shoving away the rest to storage, which is not really ideal. And so right now, what you're looking at is just tops, dirty on the left and clean on the right. This is just tops. This is not including jumpers or anything else. This is just shirts, blouses, t-shirts, camisoles, string tops, all that. I'm a little bit shocked, especially because this isn't even all of my clothes. This is maybe half of my clothes. The other half is in Ireland and is in even more desperate need of thinning. But one thing at a time. So yeah, time to get started. And I did purchase new clothing to kind of replace Some because I was in that state of kind of having the full wardrobe but nothing to wear. I was wearing the same 2 outfits basically over and over again, and then just wearing clothing that I didn't really like the rest of the time, which was just not great. So yeah, I did replace that. But going forward, that is something that I want to address as well, because I haven't fully kicked the fast fashion habit, unfortunately. Part of this is through being a poor student. If I could afford to invest in more expensive pieces, I absolutely would do that. I would much prefer to be buying very high quality garments and making sure that the things I was buying were going to last me longer, and that they were made by kind of in a more sustainable way, and just in a more ethical way. And I have been definitely making moves towards choosing brands that are relatively ethical, that are relatively sustainable, as much as I can within my budget. I've been cutting out certain brands that I have just decided that I'm completely done with, and that I'm just boycotting for the rest of my life, like just no. And yeah, not slipping back into just purchasing from them because it's convenient and because I'm used to them and because they have stuff that I like and it's cheap. I have definitely been trying to pick slightly better brands, and as time goes on, I want to improve that more and more, and to get to a point where I'm really just purchasing from brands that I feel really, really good about purchasing from. And yeah, so that's been the journey with clothes. So I've just gone through all of my skirts and trousers and shorts, and this is literally the only thing I added to my regular wear pile. This one little black skirt. It's the only thing. I've got 1 pair of shorts and, no, 2 pairs of shorts and 2 skirts in my summer pile. And this in my winter pile. This is why I need to buy some clothes. I need to buy just a couple of staples, like I say, 1 skirt, 1 pair of jeans, something like that, like something that will see me through. So ultimately I would say that minimalism has definitely had an impact on my life, and I realised when I was going through my clothing that certainly before I moved to Edinburgh, I was in a good habit of not, as I said, not purchasing mindlessly, and that I have actually integrated this mindset into my life. I am really conscious of what I purchase, of what I bring into my life, and what I throw away. And that is largely part of the minimalist movement. But I've never gotten to a point of considering myself to be a minimalist, which I think is quite common for people. And it's like there's various reasons for it. It's partly just because I still do have a lot of stuff. Like for example, I've never gotten rid of a lot of books. And books are something that are really, really valuable to me. I purchase a lot of books, and so my collection is gradually growing over time, and it does take quite a lot of storage space. And that is just, but it's not something that's ever been a problem for me because of my living circumstances, and to me they are very, very valuable. They're not sitting on my shelf not being read, because I reread all the time. I am a rereader, that's what I do. I read a lot of fiction, I read every single night before bed, and it's a very much a wind down kind of enjoyable activity for me. And I reread a lot because I find value in that, because I think if a book was in any way enjoyable, was enjoyable enough for me to read cover to cover, then it's going to be worthwhile. I always like to have any books that I've read, whether it's fiction or non-fiction, on the shelf to reference, to reread, to delve back into. And I really just don't get rid of books. It's just not something I ever feel called to do. I also have a lot of just spiritual stuff. Now this is a debate that we have gone into so much in this community, and I might make another video on it at some point. But yeah, I have a lot of stuff on my altar and just surrounding, just in the room. And some of them are gifts, they're figurines, they're statues, they're candle holders, they're just all sorts of stuff that I do actually sometimes use on my altar. I definitely enjoy using stuff that other people have given me, that have gifted to me on my altar, and that's part of my spiritual practice. So all of that does have a lot of meaning to me and a lot of use for me. So I guess for me, I'm never going to end up living one of those kind of very austere lives and that kind of picture ready, Instagram ready, minimalistic life. But it's definitely a philosophy and a mindset that has become increasingly important to me, and I have felt that it's one of the things that has maybe slipped under the radar for me in the past couple of years, and I'm definitely working to to bring that back in. And working through all of my clothes has really been kind of the first big step towards that. It's been really, really liberating to go through my clothing, get rid of pretty much half of what I owned. I'm not an extravagant dresser, but I definitely enjoy expressing myself through clothing. I have a particular style, which I think got a little bit lost during the wilderness years here in Edinburgh, because I just wasn't being mindful about my wardrobe. I do like having quite a lot of clothes, quite a lot of options and things that I can kind of mix up and play with, as opposed to being very austere with what I own. But yeah, going through my clothing in that way and getting rid of all the things that I didn't love was actually a really great way for me to become more acquainted with my wardrobe, to feel like I'm wearing things that I really love more often. And it's been a very exciting journey for me and getting me back into that mindset and thinking about my purchasing habits. And yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes in the future. So yeah, I think that's enough for a kind of introductory video on this topic for now. I might make more specific videos going forward about various different issues if you are interested in hearing about that. But for now, thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will talk to you again soon.